Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Crimes, Killers, Cults,
and beer.
and Beer. We're back from the hurricane. Yeah, we didn't put out an episode last week because, well, the episode will already be out. The episode will already be out. I have one on deck all ready to go. But anyway, but this is when we're actually, the first one that we've recorded since the Hurricane Milton. But I lost power. I was out of power for several days. And when we lost power, I hadn't even edited the current episode yet. So it's just like, okay, I'm just gonna have to miss a week. But that gave people a while to prepare for the British Binge, which started last week. I'm having a hard time. This should have been said on last week's episode with Mark Martin.
Yeah, well, it's okay. You can't flash people this episode. You were mentioning.
Yeah, my flasher battery is dead.
Talking about his light, by the way. For those of us who are listening and going, wait, they flash people on this show?
This battery's dead.
Yes.
the blue and red strobe light, that's the same type of light that they have on a police car. Oh, it was funny during the hurricane. On the next street over, there was a there was a fire truck there, and I, just for shits and giggles, I mean, I had my my next door neighbors. They came over to my place because their house was, took a little bit of damage like really early on, so they were just hanging out at my place with their kids, and so just for shits and giggles, I took that and I shined it, and I let it run for about 5 minutes. And then I turned it off. I'll be damned if not even 5 minutes later, a freaking police car came rolling down our street in the middle of a hurricane. I'm like, doo, 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 doo.
Yeah, well, I know you really know that that shit's going down when they start sending
When they
out
close
those
the Waffle
alerts
House?
saying. Well, yes, they did close Waffle House, but also when they send out those messages saying, we are suspending all emergency services. Basically, don't have an emergency, because if you do, you're basically just boned. It's like, oh.
In other words, you could theoretically go on a purge.
And we do in Florida, actually.
Oh man. Oh, we may be doing, a fifth part in the British Binge, possibly. There's a book for the heavy hitter. There's a book I ordered, but it won't be here until like the beginning of November. So
Nice.
So I may stick another. The British Binge may stretch to 5 episodes. But this is exactly how the Canada Binge went from 4 to 6. So who knows what's going to happen. But there may be a break in the Canada Binge. And that's something that I will have to tell you all about if it happens. And it involves a very well-known guest that has committed to coming on the show, whether or not he said he's going to. But whether or not it happens remains to be seen. So I'm not going to drop any names yet until until it's on. But he said that he would, and I think that you guys will love that episode if it happens. And so yeah, we may have to pause the British Binge just for one episode. So just letting you know. And I hope it happens too, because that would be amazing.
Yep.
So anyway, this week we found another lesser-known serial killer from British serial killer. This one wasn't a serial killer fanboy like Mark Martin. This one was a scary and sadistic subhuman monster, Patrick David Mackay. It's actually spelled Mackay, but it's pronounced Mackay. So I'm just going to call him Mackay. I might slip up and call him Mackay. Who knows? But
Whatever.
yeah.
Who cares?
No,
He was an
after
asshole. We
yeah,
get
he
his
was
name right.
big time. But after I got done, because I won't go looking for other podcasts about the same subject until after my notes are done. So after I finished the notes on this one, I looked on Spotify to see if there's any other episodes about him. And True Crime Kent, which is a podcast that I listen to, I've met them, I've hung out with them at CrimeCon. It's a great podcast. They covered Patrick Mackay, and I had listened to the episode, and I didn't even remember it. So, and the funny thing is when I went ahead and listened to the episode again, we used the same freaking source.
Wow.
I was like, oh God. But this is why we cite sources, just in case. He had an alias, which was David Groves, which doesn't come up at all in the story. I mean, it was just mentioned in the research or in the, that he had that alias, but in the story, in researching it, I never came up with an instance where he actually used that alias. But he was Nico named. He was nicknamed Nico named.
Nico named.
Yeah. He was Nico named the psychopath. And I'm making up words again. But and it was initially the psychopath, and he was always and the one that actually stuck was the devil's disciple, which we'll get into that one later on in the episode. He is recognized as one of the UK's most prolific serial killers. For these binges and everything, I try to focus mostly on the lesser known cases and then finish up with a heavy hitter. I mean, Mackay is a heavy hitter, but he's just isn't all that well known for whatever reason. Although he may be well known in England, but just not so much in the U.S. And
out of sight, out of mind, I guess.
Yeah, same thing with Mark Martin for that matter. I mean, you ask any common, average Joe on the street to name 5 U.S. serial killers, they're going to come up with BTK, Ted Bundy, John Wayne Gacy,
Ed
Gein, and somebody else.
Eileen Wuornos.
Eileen Wuornos, yeah. But if you ask an American to name 5 British serial killers, they'll come up with Jack the Ripper, Fred and Rose West, maybe Donald Nielsen, and maybe Peter Sutcliffe, maybe. But if you ask just the average Joe Schmo on the American, they're just going to come up with Fred and Rose West and or maybe the Myra Henley and what's his name, her boyfriend, the Moores murders, might come up with him, but most average Joe Schmoes wouldn't be able to come up with 5.
Yeah.
So
I wouldn't have been able to come up with 5. I mean, I would have been like Jack the Ripper, and about all I know about UK serial killers.
And we're not gonna finish out the binge with with Fred and Rose West. Fred and Rose West will not be part of the binge. What I'm gonna do, but the one that I am finishing out on, he is a heavy hitter, but he's a lesser known heavy hitter. So, and one of the more infamous British criminals.
He's not just famous; he's infamous.
Yeah, he's infamous.
Wow, infamous. All right, like El Guapo. You ever seen the Three Amigos?
Of course, I've seen the 3.
That was like he's infamous. What's infamous?
Would you say I have a plethora of
pinatas? Oh yes, I have a plethora. Hefe. What is a plethora? Why you ask?
I haven't seen that movie in decades, but I love it. My
I
little
was like,
buttercup.
he turns when it's his birthday, and it's like El Guapo turns, and he looks at him like 35 years old today. Was that you on your last birthday, Bill? And Bill is 35.
I am I am 30 with 21 years experience.
Mm-hmm. I will go with that.
But, so Mackay was convicted of 3 counts of manslaughter, and there were 2 more that were left to lie on file, which in England is pretty much the exact opposite of an Alfred plea in the U.S. It means that there is enough evidence on the case to proceed, but it's not necessary to try because they had already got the defendant on other things. But but the charges are not the charges aren't dismissed though. One of his victims, his most infamous murder, was a priest, Father Crean, who he beat to death with an axe.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
And I all of a sudden I just thought, what, he gave the priest 40 whacks?
Close to it. Spoiler alert. Crean had traveled the world during his time as a priest in Vincur in Spain and Gibraltar, but put a knife in that. Not Father Crean, but his story. We'll get to.
No, he put an axe in that, unfortunately.
Yeah. Mackay also confessed to 6 other murders where his confession matched the details of unsolved cases, but they were never charged to him because he was already in prison. Like, the left to lie. I'm learning terms in these first 2 episodes that I never knew before. So I'm learning things on these binges. So
That's good, but you'll have to start saying them in a British accent. That's probably very poor, but
I'll try. I haven't really been working on the British accent. With the aftermath of the hurricane and all that stuff, that hadn't even crossed my mind.
Do you often work on a British accent? It's like a pastime for you.
I do drive a truck for a living. It gets boring.
Next bill will be, I took up ventriloquism too. Sounds like somebody else is talking to me in the truck.
Once he was in prison, he was interviewed, and he said that he didn't know why he did it, and that he was scared of himself. Sources for this episode are the BBC doc Confessions of a Psycho Killer, Murderpedia, and a little bit of Wiki. There's always a little bit of Wiki. Just a little bit. Oh, speaking of that, if you haven't heard it yet, if you didn't see the social media posts that I put up and everything, there's this podcast called Michael and Jeremy Steal Your Podcast. I saw that. You need to go and listen to that because they stole CKCB, and it was freaking hilarious. I loved it. They did a great job. I did a little bit with them where, like, I start recording. Well, just listen to it. Just listen to it. I'll make sure I'll make sure I link it in this episode. I mean, it's linked in the Mark Martin episode too. But but this is the first time I've talked about it since the episode aired. So,
right.
But you definitely want to check that out. They did Murder Coaster as well. Like the week before ours, they did Murder Coaster. So, that's a longtime friend of the podcast. So
nice.
And that one was hilarious as well. So they're doing spooky. They're doing true crime podcasts for spooky season, and they're great. Season. And they're from Florida too. They're from over in Brevard County. That's my
anybody who's anybody is from Florida.
Anyway, hashtag, but I digress. But I meant to bring that up at the beginning, but I forgot. But just the little bit of wiki that reminded me of something because they said something about Wikipedia. They're like, not one of those, none of that Wikipedia reading, lame bullshit like that. They actually do the research, So that's where that came from.
Nice.
Mackay was born September 25th, 1952 in Middlesex, England, to Harold Mackay, and who was from Scotland. And this is interesting because his mother, Marion, was Creole, and she was from Guyana. So, so Patrick is mixed. So,
Okay.
But how does a Scottish man and how's a man from Scotland and a woman from Guyana meet?
Obviously, she came to Scotland looking for a nice kilted man, maybe, or
Actually, I think he went to Guyana. I think, but I didn't really go too much into his dad's backstory or anything because I was initially thinking that this was going to turn into a 2-part episode, but it's not. But so but Patrick had 2 younger sisters as well, and the family grew up in Dartford, Kent. Growing up, Mackay, like so many other serial killers, was abused constantly by his father, who was also a raging alcoholic with PTSD from serving in World War II. That might have been how he wound up
and
in
here
Guyana.
we go again. The bad parenting every time. Bad parenting.
Oh, this guy. Well, Mark Martin is like a cheap like the Temu version of Patrick Mackay.
When you order your serial killers from Temu, that's
Yeah,
what you get.
You get a cheap ripoff with a NASCAR racer's name.
Everyone in that episode had 2 names. I was like, everybody, like, we're talking about. No, wait.
His father started abusing Patrick even before he was born. He kicked Marion in the stomach when she was 6 months pregnant and knocked her down the stairs.
Oh, yeah, that's not a good form of birth control. You don't.
No,
Don't do that.
it can be very detrimental to the woman.
You think so?
I would assume.
But she stayed, which is sad. You know,
yeah.
that she didn't leave.
When I was going through that part, all I could think about is like, was like, okay, at least she wasn't there when Jim Jones came to Guyana. But one of these days, we're going to cover Jonestown. One of these days. But he was also he was very abusive to Marion, but not to his 2 daughters. When Harold was drunk, he would degrade Marion of accusing her of being a whore when she had never once cheated on him. But like Mark Martin, Patrick had a bond with Harold. Harold would sit Patrick on his knee and tell him war stories, which Patrick ate up, and I would assume that he probably embellished some of those stories. But then, again, World War II. If you were infantry in World War II, you saw some shit.
Oh yeah.
But
maybe not so embellished.
Yeah, maybe not. Although he probably inflated his body count.
Yeah.
I killed 6. I'll kill. Damn, I'm not even gonna try. I killed 6.
He's Scottish. He's Scottish. He's Scottish. Scottish.
Welcome to all things Scottish. It's not Scottish. It's crap. Damn it! I almost had it.
No.
I almost had.
No.
I almost rolled the R's.
That was bad.
Almost.
I'm sorry to everyone who's Scottish. I apologize to every Scottish person. It was like every Scottish person suddenly cried out in pain all at once.
And then we're silenced. That was a good serve, though. I caught it. So
you did.
But that's probably, war stories and everything from an infantryman in World War II is probably not the best idea for bonding with a child. But this was initial.
No. I don't know, though. I mean, you think about all the what was the generation before the boomers? It was the lost generation or something like that. I can't remember.
The Greatest Generation.
Greatest Generation, was that what they're? But I mean, I don't know. I think a lot of boomers and stuff heard a lot of stories from their parents.
Probably. But this was what initially fixated Patrick on violence, and how could it not? I mean, his dad was a war hero after all in Patrick's eyes. But still, all of the ingredients for creating a serial killer are there from Harold. But wait, there's more. So put a knife in that.
We have 2 knives already.
There's a lot of knives in this one.
Oh boy.
When Mackay was 10 years old, his father died from a heart attack at the train station on his way to work.
That sucks. That's the last place that I'd want to die, is going to work.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, yikes. It's like, I gotta go to work and I drop dead. Suck.
But the last thing that Harold said to Patrick that morning was, "Remember to be good."
He didn't specify.
Yeah, he was good. He was good at doing bad things.
Got to be a little more specific there.
Yeah. Well, Daddy told me to be good, so I've decided I'd be the best serial killer that I could possibly be.
Wait, what?
Daddy proud of me? Daddy. I'm not even attempting a British accent. I'm just doing a little kid.
A very creepy child.
Yeah, well, he was a very creepy child. But Patrick
He may not have been a creepy child until
he was a creepy
made into
child.
A creepy child.
He was a creepy child. Patrick heard the news about his dad's death from a neighbor while he was walking home from school. Hey, Patrick, did you hear the one about your father?
Nope.
No.
No.
What happened?
Father.
Tell me that joke. Well, he's dead. What?
They had no tact back then.
None at all.
It makes me think about, oh God, the scary movies. I love the third one, but just like, your teacher, your teacher, she's dead. She's dead and gone forever. She died a horrible, painful death.
Every single one of those movies are great. Every single one of them. I mean, the first one I think was the best overall, but they're all really good.
Oh, they are all really good. The third one, oh my God. I don't know why the third one cracks me up though, but yes, just that scene, like, I'll tell her about her teacher. Yeah, she's dead. And the little girl's screaming, and then he's like,
Oh, that's definitely worth
and I just
a
ran your dog over with the car too, and I pulled in. Everyone you love is dying.
But despite the abuse, Mackay loved his father, and he had a hard time coping with his death. That sounds like Mark Martin.
Daddy.
He would tell people that Harold was still alive, and he even carried like a framed 4x6 of his dad around with him.
My daddy is alive. He's right
See?
here. Say
I got a
hi,
picture. Daddy.
Oh.
Oh boy. He carried that with him everywhere he went. His mother apparently knew how much of an asshole Harold was, but she didn't, I wrote apparently. I think I meant to write obviously. His mother obviously
she knew what an
knew
asshole he
how
was.
much an asshole Harold was. And although she didn't forbid Patrick to go to his funeral, she strongly suggested that he didn't go, and Patrick decided not to attend. It could be because the funeral was in Scotland and Marion wasn't going, so how else would he have gotten there?
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, it's also one of those things where, not going to a funeral, I mean, you're going to grieve regardless. He might have been an asshole, but, if it was your father and you had a bond with him, not going to the funeral is could cause more problems in the long run than going to the funeral and making your peace,
Yeah, it could. But even at that point, 10-year-old Patrick was already getting into trouble. Not just bullying his classmates, but also petty crimes like stealing from stores and robbing houses. Patrick later said that when his father died, he flew off the rails, which history obviously confirms.
Right.
But he also said that Harold's death was a relief. Now, this guy is a freaking liar. Okay, so that may or may not have happened. He may have realized, you know what, my dad was a fucking douche. He may have realized that later on in life, or he may have just been telling somebody what they wanted to hear.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, he was obviously abused by him.
Right.
And again, even though he had an attachment to him, it obviously wasn't healthy. So even if you did love your dad, if he was smacking you around and abusing you or whatever, and he died, I'm sure there would be a mixture of feelings there. Sadness and yeah, possibly relief that that he's never going to beat you again. I mean,
Right. Yeah.
he
So,
may not have been lying.
well, it's probably a little bit of both.
Yeah.
But as he got older, he stepped into the man of the house role at home and began to beat his mother and his sisters, just like Daddy did.
That's not what you're supposed to do. That's
No.
not what a man does.
But there's some serious Peter Curtin vibes there. You know, episodes 85 and 86 with Matthew from the Mighty Murder Coaster. You know, second time we talked about them on this episode. But yeah, our Peter Curtin episodes, that was a blast doing that with him. But he did the same thing when his dad died. He just basically started abusing his mom and his sisters, sexually and physically.
Oh, so there was incest too.
Yes.
How lovely.
Well, his dad was raping his daughters as well.
I thought you said earlier in the episode he didn't abuse them. Maybe
No,
just...
Peter Curtin. Peter Curtin.
Oh, Peter Curtin.
Yeah. But neighbors reported seeing the girls literally sitting on the roof of the house to avoid being found by Patrick.
No.
They moved from Dartford to Gravesend, but there Mackay just got worse, and the police were usually called to their place 3 to 4 times a week, just because of him going off on his rages.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he would have to be dragged out of the house by up to like 8 to 10 policemen. And when he was arrested, he would fight the police brutally, but he was always let go because he was a minor. There was one female cop that kind of was able to talk him down from sometimes. He kind of had a relationship with her, like, not like a real
not
relationship, but he had a little bit of respect for her. We'll just call it that. So every time the police got called out to his house, she's probably like, fuck, I gotta go to see him again.
God, this little prick is crazy.
Most times.
Or wanker, I guess. That would probably be the better word, right?
Bloody wanker.
The wanker's nuts.
He's a bloody wanker. But most times it was a neighbor that called the police, not Marion. Marion was basically a captive at this point, and his tantrums and his abuse got even worse. And Patrick didn't do well in school either, and as a result, he would bully the other kids at school, and he obviously didn't have very many friends. And I swear to God, this is the same notes from Mark Martin.
So I say, kids, be nice to those weirdos at school because you never know.
No kidding. But he would also throw temper tantrums in public, at school, at the market, or wherever. One classmate who was interviewed referred to Mackay as like a little terrorist who would attack his classmates for no reason. And, of course, he was cruel to animals.
We got to round it out. I mean,
yeah, the family's cat and dog. He also liked to torture. Torture the cat and dog. He would tear the wings off of birds, but not kill them. And that's another thing about all these serial killers. They all, a lot of them are like cruel to birds. How the hell do you even catch a bird?
Well, I don't know. Those big mourning doves are pretty slow. I mean, if you can sneak up or pigeons. Pigeons, they got pigeons in the UK, right?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, pigeons.
I mean,
if you're fast, you can probably grab a pigeon. But
yeah. My husband always tells me not to. I always want to take a pigeon home because I just think they're really cute. And every time I see a pigeon, I'm like, honey, I can have a pigeon. He's like, no. And I'm like, but look, it'll come right to me. I can just take it, right? No.
It probably, you got a point, because pigeons will come up to you and take, like, crackers out of your hand and stuff like that. That's probably exactly what it was. It would probably lure them to his hand with with like a little piece of bread or a cracker or something. And when they came up, he'd grab them. That's probably exactly.
Like that song, Poisoning Pigeons in the Park. We're going to poison some pigeons in the park.
But so whenever I hear this, I'm picturing, about a serial killer that like to torture birds. I'm always picturing like a mockingbird. And I'm sorry, you're not catching a mockingbird.
No. No, I mean, I think there's a few birds. I mean, you could probably, obviously, you could catch a duck, I'm sure, or a chicken. Yeah,
I mean, they train boxers by having them catch chickens. I saw that in a movie one time.
Oh yeah, they do, right? Run around, get that chicken.
If he tried to mess with a sandhill crane, though, that bird would have fucked him up.
Or you could probably catch a seagull. I think, although they're nasty too. They dive bomb you for your food. Just
sandhill cranes are cool, and I've had a close encounter with one. Like I was like literally, I was sitting there at a outdoor table at a restaurant, and the sandhill crane literally walked right up to me. It was like less than 2 feet away from me. And it's just okay, they're big, but you don't really get a size. You don't really get a feel for exactly how big they are unless they're right up on you. And it's just I sat there and I was just like, this is cool. I mean, it's obviously not going to hurt me because he's wanting food, but I was intimidated by the size of it. I had never been that close to one before.
Well, they're huge. I mean, their wingspans are huge too. And you see them, if you actually see them landing up close, I mean, they are big. They run
12-foot alligators off.
Well, they have to run to take off. They need like a runway to take off. They got to get up to speed. They're so damn big.
One of the theories about Mothman was that it was just a sandhill crane.
Yeah. Well, I make sure to leave out one of your sweaters for Mothman.
But he even
we digress.
Okay. Patrick even had a pet turtle. That one day, this if you didn't already,
mortis, the safety tortoise.
If you didn't already hate him, you were really going to hate him now. He doused this turtle with gas and lit it on fire alive.
No,
poor turtle.
I swear to God, I'm one of those weirdos that gets more upset when I hear about people abusing animals than when I hear about people abusing people. Same. And I know that's wrong, but maybe it's just it's the innocence. It's the innocence of the animal,
right,
that gets me. It's like, come on, that animal doesn't know why you're doing that to it. It's
what gets me is these pictures of animals that were adopted from a shelter and everything. And like the picture on the way home where you can just tell that the animals, the dog or the cat. I'm actually looking at one right now that's just up on Facebook about a adopted cat, and that cat's just snuggling with the guy in a car. Cats hate cars, but this cat's just like, I'm out of there. I love my new person, you know? Yeah.
Oh, I know. I can't watch those sad, like, ASPCA commercials with Sarah
In
McLachlan
the
singing "In the Arms of an
arms
Angel" or
of
some
an
crap.
angel.
I'm just like throwing all my money at the TV. I'm like, just make the puppies and kittens stop crying, please. Stop. I can't.
Yeah. But why a turtle? Turtles never hurt anybody. Unless you're
Turtles.
unless you're Shredder.
Snapping turtles are pretty nasty.
This is true,
I
but
love them though.
those aren't turtles, those are dinosaurs.
This is also true, but I love those turtles. Those like soft shell turtles. They're always in the road,
Yeah.
and I'm always the one to get out of the car and move them. Half the time I get slapped, by their flippers, like for my trouble. But I'm like, I'm trying to help you, you asshole. Just accept it.
Yeah. But Gravesend, Kent was probably the last place that somebody like Mackay should have moved to. But they really didn't have a choice because Harold had spent every penny that he had made on alcohol, and obviously Patrick wasn't contributing, so they were dirt poor.
Right.
The ironically named Gravesend was a low-income city with a strong presence of goons running around causing havoc. It's a Thames. I think it's called the Thames, the river.
Thames, the Thames.
Yeah.
Is it Thames?
It's Thames.
It's Thames.
I think.
I could be wrong too, but I think it's the Thames River.
But it's a gateway. It's a river gateway commuter town, and it's a connection hub to lots of river transport. So the ports there, like anywhere else, are obviously a hot spot for crime.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, anywhere you have a port, you're going to have crime.
Oh yeah. all the drug dealers are like, quick, get the boat.
We're going to have to cover Diddy at some point once that thing is all wrapped up. But Star Island, where his mansion is, there's a road that takes you. There's a road that takes you to. It runs in between the port and Star Island. You can literally see the port, with stacks of containers from Diddy's house.
Oh wow. Curious.
Yeah, we're gonna have to cover Diddy at some point. Once the verdict is once that case is all wrapped up, we'll cover that in its entirety.
Mm-hmm.
but and fun fact, there in Gravesend, there is a statue of Pocahontas. She's buried there.
Okay.
Apparently now the city is basically turned around from my research now. Seems like a pretty cool city. It has a soccer, cricket, and rugby teams, several colleges, and there's a lot of history.
You mean football?
Football. Yeah. Football. Yeah, I guess I have to call it football when we're covering a British case.
Must be like, you American wanker.
Yeah, that's why when we send the Jaguars and the Patriots over there like did today, and the place was freaking sold out for two of the shittier teams in the NFL. But it wasn't like that in the early 70s. So obviously there's been some serious changes there. But after Mackay turned 14, he began living on the streets sometimes, and he would always come back home to rain terror on his family. I swear this.
Change the locks.
Yeah, right. I swear this.
Move.
This is so much like Mark Martin. It's not even funny. But I should say that Mark Martin is so much like him because Mark Martin was a lot more recent. One time when Mackay came home, he raised hell. The police were called. He barricaded himself into an upstairs bedroom, and the police brought ladders to try and get to him. And he had put himself between the end of the bed and the door. It was a tiny little bedroom. He had a bayonet rigged so its handle was against the door and the blade was against his stomach. And he would yell at the police that if they opened his door, they would be responsible for killing him. And just open the door.
Oops. Yeah. Whoopsie.
It was a standoff for there was a standoff for hours, which was the reason why they brought in the ladders, and they eventually came in through the window and arrested him.
Bayonet. That's so Revolutionary War.
Fix bayonets. You know what won the Battle of Gettysburg? Bayonets.
Mm-hmm.
Fun fact. Like Mark Martin, he even tried to kill a younger boy. He attacked him in the street, choked him, tried to steal the kid's watch. He later said that he would have succeeded in killing him if he hadn't been pulled off at the kid.
And I would have gotten away with it too
if it wasn't for you meddling adults. At 15 years old, Mackay was diagnosed as being a psychopath by a psychologist who predicted that he would grow up to be a cold and psychopathic killer unless he got some type of intervention. I mean, I cannot believe. You know what? I could have switched the origins, the backstory between him and Mark Martin. Nobody would have known. They're identical.
I mean, and psychopathy gets a bad rap because not everybody who is a psychopath or sociopath goes out and murders people, but
Well, I just sent you a picture. I mean, this picture is from one of his psychology sessions and everything. If you look at it in this picture, he kind of looks like Richard Ramirez.
Mm-hmm.
He really does.
But he also looks dead inside. I mean,
so did Richard Ramirez.
He's very staring at you with those dead freaking eyes. I don't know. Looks creepy.
Oh, well, the next picture, he's a lot more animated than the next picture. But I'll show you that one when it comes up. I'm actually going to put the pictures into the videos too. I'm going to start doing that. Make our videos more fun.
Add a little whimsy.
Yeah. He had been taken from his home and put into various special schools, institutions, even a couple sentences in prison. One teacher at one of the specialist schools, who was also a psychologist, said that he would grow up to be a potential murderer of women. A psychologist said the exact same thing about Mark Martin.
Foreshadowing.
Yeah, despite all of this, he was released from custody at 20 years old in 1972. And by then, crime was a way of life for him. But by the time he turned 21, he had quite a rap sheet ranging from petty theft to assault. And the older he got, the more he escalated. And murder was a foregone conclusion, and it wouldn't be long before he did it. This is where Mark Martin and Patrick Mackay kind of part ways. Because Mackay was the real deal. Mark Martin was just a fanboy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, fangirl. We'll just call him a fangirl.
A wannabe.
Yeah. A poser. But later when Mackay was in prison, he said that he had the best of intentions. He wanted to start over. But Mackay moved to London, and there he dove headfirst into drugs and booze, and He became fascinated with the Nazis' ideology and dove into Adolf Hitler's history, and Mein Kampf was his favorite
Oh,
book. And
God.
he started trying to talk in a German accent, walking around. Nein, nein, Mein Kampf, perfect Nugen.
Makes me think like, did he have a friend named Kyle? Do you walk around and go, have you seen Kyle? You seen Kyle?
What's that from? That's
It's just been a
that's
joke between me and my husband about
oh
this tall.
that's awesome.
Have you seen Kyle?
But it's been a long time since Nazi Joe made an appearance on CKCB, which was
Oh,
just Joseph Paul Franklin episode 24, which is where Nein, nein, mein Kampf, perfect Dugan, which that's where that originated. Yeah, I haven't. Nazi Joe hasn't made an appearance in probably at least a year and a half.
probably for the best, but
Oh, he's funny. But he also made the Nazi uniforms, like kind of like a precursor to cosplay. Complete with jack boots. It
you
wasn't.
do.
You could tell what he was going for, but it didn't really. It wasn't good cosplay.
Doing goose steps.
Yeah, he would. He would goose step. He would goose step down the street. Like a, just right down the freaking street.
And he would do it because he could catch more geese that way, so he could tear their wings off.
London was practically destroyed by the Nazis in World War II, and his dad fought the British, with the British against them. And I'm sure that didn't go very well with the locals, seeing him walk down the street like that.
Probably not, but yeah, that's someone that you just go, okay, let's not look at him anymore. Put your hand in front of your kid's eyes. Okay, goodbye.
Yeah.
We're leaving.
He also nicknamed himself Franklin Bullvolt the First. That was like this persona of despotic world dictator that he had dreamed up, and he boasted that if he was in charge, he would kill off all the old and useless people.
Well, Bill, you wouldn't have made it.
Perfect Nugan. But whenever police were trying to locate Mackay, and they questioned Marion about his whereabouts, and she would always protect him, saying that she hadn't seen him, which is sad. But
Yeah.
The neighbors, who was sick of all his bullshit, contradicted her. They were more than happy to offer up information, hoping to rid themselves of this puke.
That asshole was goose stepping about a block away. You go find him.
And he was chanting, Perfect Nugan! Nein, nein, mein Kampf, Perfect Nugan! God, it feels good to do that again. I haven't done that in such a long time.
Oh. To all of our German listener.
Oh, I don't even think I did that in the freaking Peter Curtin episode.
No.
I don't think I did. And Peter Curtin was a German serial killer. 1973, a priest named Father Anthony Crean took a liking to Mackay, and he was being his friend. He even took him to the bar for drinks where he would pay for everything, and he was genuinely trying to help Mackay. Mackay repaid this kindness by breaking into his house and stealing a check from him that he cashed. Police caught him, and Father Crean asked that the charges be dropped, and he forgave Mackay, but he also wrote him off. Crean told the police that he wasn't holding a grudge, but he also wanted nothing more to do with Mackay, but put a knife in that. Mackay was ordered to pay a £50 fine, as well as the money that he had, as well as repay the money that he had stolen. Think he paid it?
No.
You're right.
You can't get blood out of a turnip, man.
No, he paid it with interest and washed the guy's car every week. No.
Sure he did. Very repentant.
Yeah. Later in 1973, Mackay was on a train where he encountered a young au pair named Heidi Milk. He stabbed her to death and threw her off the train while it was going full speed. This was completely random, and nobody saw him do it.
Oh my God. Just, I guess that's one way to get rid of him. Just, bye.
She was a German au pair there, like on a work visa.
Wow. Just you're on a train. Someone just comes up and decides to stab you.
Yep.
Poor woman.
A couple weeks later, he broke into the apartment of a woman named Mary Hines, where he beat and stabbed her to death and then trashed the apartment. Mackay confessed to this, then recanted his confession. He also did this in June of 1974, with a shopkeeper named Frank Goodman. Goodman's head was bashed in. But later, Mackay told the police where to find the shoes that he had worn in the murder, because he had apparently ditched his shoes because they were covered with blood. But they still actually had Goodman's blood on them. And these two killings were the lie to file thing, because they already had him. So
he wasn't going around, saying, "I'm a serial killer. I'm a serial killer."
No, like I said a few minutes ago, this is where Martin and Mackay part ways. Not even a week later, Mackay saw a homeless man on a bridge. He attacked the man and threw him over and watched the man thrash around until he went under and didn't come back up. I mean, I
couldn't swim at that, and that's a special kind of cold too, to just watch him flail and drown. Yeah. Wow.
But it does, whether he could swim or not is kind of irrelevant, because most homeless people, I mean, even June in England, the water's still pretty cold.
Yeah.
It might not be cold as far as the air, but the water's still cold. And not to mention, these people, they wear multiple layers of clothing a lot of the times to keep themselves warm. So, it was probably his clothes and his shoes that pulled him under.
Possibly.
I mean, Mackay was good at covering his tracks. He was staying at a hostel one time when police were looking for him, and they were questioning everybody. They got to the hostel, and the owner said that Mackay was in fact staying there. But Mackay actually called the hostel owner, who motioned, "That's him," when he picked up the phone and started talking to them, the police were there, and they're like, "It's him." Mm-hmm. One of the cops whispered for him just to find out where Mackay was. He tried, but Mackay smelled a rat and he hung up. So, I mean,
or try and get him to say where he is. So, where are you at right now?
Yeah, fuck you. Daddy. Mackay then went and crashed at a friend's house. There were two brothers that he knew, known as the Crowdery brothers. They lived as a whole family at a house in Stockwell, and Mackay actually behaved himself in their house, and even calling the brothers' parents mom and dad, but put a knife in that.
I'm sure they were creeped out, like, ugh. We're not your mommy and daddy, you little freak.
Well, no. The dad plays a prominent part later on, but I'm not going to spoil it. So, 1972, the affluent parts of London, like Chelsea and Knightsbridge, suffered a rash of petty crimes. This is actually the wealthiest area of London, and crime wasn't really common there, but all of a sudden, high-end jewelry stores were being robbed, as well as high-end restaurants. There were also muggings and assault, and most of the people attacked were wealthy, elderly widows. The attacker would also, in some cases, get close with the women to the point to where he would gain access to their home, where he would rob and assault them in their homes. Initially, The police thought that this was a gang, but it was later found out that it was all Mackay's doing. Like I said, he was very good at covering his tracks.
Mm-hmm.
His victims weren't only women, but they were all people who he knew wouldn't pose a threat to him. So he only preyed on the weak. I mean, he's a coward.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
I'm trying to attack someone who can fight back, asshole.
Yeah, he's not gonna walk up to Conor McGregor and try to mug him. But this went on for a couple of years. January 1974, a woman named Stephanie Britton was strangled to death, and her 4-year-old grandson, Christopher Martin, Jesus Christ, these names, Martin, who had a younger brother named Mark. No. Christopher Martin was stabbed to death in the chest in their house in London. So he strangles the mother, the grandmother to death, and then stabs a 4-year-old.
See, that's a special kind of fucked up. I mean, it's I mean, regardless, stabbing or strangling someone is messed up anyway, but you're gonna kill a 4-year-old?
Yeah.
Well, I guess if he was good at covering his tracks, he figured he didn't even want the possibility of the kid being able to say anything about him.
Yeah.
Even if he was still really young. But
I think he would have left a 2-year-old alive.
I don't know. Maybe. Oh.
But who knows? Mackay had been working as a groundskeeper in that area during that time. And somebody reported seeing a man leaving the area very quickly at the time of their deaths. Daddy? I hope the listeners find that disturbing.
Oh, I'm sure they do. Don't worry.
It's like, never mind the case. It's just Bill going, Daddy?
Daddy? Daddy? I'm happy, Daddy. I love you, Daddy.
Oh, oh my God. Deep breath. February 4th, 1975, Ivy Davis was murdered. She was a friendly woman, but she was a stern mother. Lots of people knew her because she owned a popular cafe. She had been beaten in the head with a metal pry bar that Mackay had just left at the scene. She was also dragged down the...
Yeah. That's a mistake. You don't leave it behind.
Not really. He confessed to this. This was something that came out later. He wasn't charged with this initially.
Oh, wow.
But they should have charged him with this one. And we're getting to why. She was also dragged down the stairs with a rope around her neck. He's escalating big time. I mean, he had even moved the furniture around and even undressed Ivy and put her into a nightgown. He then laid her down on the couch on her battered side, the battered side of her face down so it couldn't be seen. Made it look like she had just fallen asleep watching TV.
I'm sure the coroner was like, no.
Staging, though, and staging things like that and everything. I mean, yeah, Danny Rolling took that to a much worse. He did it worse, but
worser.
Her son Vic found out about the death on the news. An employee reported the day of the murder that a man came in claiming to be a doctor. He came in asking if he could bring some patients in for a day out. He said that this chap's name was Patrick. And he actually did bring in a group of patients. I don't know how the hell that happened. but that's
Just
what
walk
was.
into a hospital and be like, "Can I have a couple patients just to borrow?"
I think he
No big
was.
deal.
I think at the time he was in the hospital, like admitted to the hospital, but was basically given. They let him do what he wanted. I don't know.
What?
That part seemed weird to me.
Yeah.
It was funny in the documentary because Vic, he said when he found out, he was hanging out with some friends, and the Monkees was about to come on, and I mean, I said it's funny. It's not funny. It's sad, but the Monkees was about to come on. They were getting ready to watch the Monkees, but then a news flash came on. He says, "Okay, there's been a murder here," and he's like, "Hey, hold on, let's see who it is." And he turned out that it's his own mom. He's like,
Oh.
and he just lost it and picked up the TV and just threw it across the room. And then he says, "My friends we didn't get to watch the Monkees that week."
Yeah, I don't think so. Uh, the monkeys. Wow.
Love the
I,
Monkees. They were great. That show was gold.
hey, we're the monkeys.
There was this one episode that I remember. It just sticks out because I'm a musician. They
Hmm.
got involved with the mob and they had a guitar case, and the mob was like shaking them down. This one thug opens the guitar case. Hey boss, there's a guitar in this guitar case.
What do you think is supposed to be in there?
A Tommy gun. But
A Tommy gun.
Valentine's Day, 1974. 84-year-old Isabella Griffith answered a knock on the door at her home in Chelsea. She was one of these women whose lives Mackay had weaseled himself into. He would help her with groceries, and she invited him for tea and biscuits.
Like
She
you
told,
do.
yeah, she told him that
In England, biscuits,
biscuits,
cookies, right?
chips, which are French fries, but
Crisps.
crisps.
Those are
Fancy
actually
crisps?
potato chips, right?
No, fish and chips is fried fish and French fries.
Well, I know, but crisps are potato
Oh
chips.
yeah. Okay, yeah.
Yes.
Um, but she told him that he could always, she could always use some help and everything. He was a nice young lad, and told him he could come back again. And he came
Mhm.
over several other times, running errands for her, gaining her trust. And one day he came over and knocked. Griffith opened the door, and Mackay asked if she needed anything. And she said no, but she thanked him for offering. She's like, I'm good right now. Thank you. But her mistake was that she didn't unlock the chain on the door, and that caused Mackay to flip out. He kicked the door in and attacked her. He shoved her into the kitchen, strangling her. She passed out. He then went into the living room, then all through the house. He then stabbed her very hard with the large kitchen knife, and it went all the way through her body and stuck in the floor.
It takes some force.
Well, put a knife in that. No.
Depending. Oh, jeez.
No, but
That was
that's
terrible.
that this is according to Mackay though. It actually stuck in the scapula bone, in her shoulder.
Mhm.
Because still, that still takes force. But
Yeah.
he then sat down and drank a flask of whiskey, and then crossed her arms like an undertaker would. He then filled her sink with water, and he put shoes and clothing and dishes into it to throw off the cops, I guess. I don't know.
What?
I mean,
She was doing dishes when suddenly she got stabbed horribly
yeah,
by this knife.
yeah. He then bolted.
Weird.
He then bolted, but he took the knife with him.
Hmm.
Her body wouldn't be found until 12 days later. A friend had noticed milk in newspapers accumulating on her doorstep, so they called the police for a wellness check, and then that's how Miss Griffith was found. But it should be noted that on February 11th, Mackay had been admitted to the hospital for an attempt at suicide. He was discharged.
Oh,
Yeah, he was discharged on February 14th, and he went straight to Isabella's house. But he may not have been initially planning on killing her, or maybe he was.
maybe.
Who knows? But
Maybe
according
it was
to him,
spur of the moment. Yeah.
yeah, according to him, it was the the fact that she didn't open the chain that set him off. Like
She didn't let me in completely, so
yeah.
I killed her.
Once he got out, he resumed his robbing and mugging career. He loves purse snatching too. He also bludgeoned a 62-year-old woman to death with a lead pipe. Didn't find the name on that one.
We're getting like all the clue tools.
No
The
kidding.
lead pipe, the knife. Is there a revolver coming up? He liked to strangle people. The rope.
You know, I had never played that game in my life until about maybe 15 years ago.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I used to love Clue as a kid.
Don't know why it was cool, but you know, I don't think I could really get into it now. It's just based.
The movie's
It's
the
very
movie's even better though.
well, yeah. I had seen the movie, but the game itself is just a very basic process of elimination.
Oh yeah.
But he knocked on the door of 92-year-old Sarah Rodwell, beat her to death right on her doorstep. He then stole 10 pounds from her, and then he killed a random woman with an axe.
He's very Lizzie Borden with the axe. I will.
Well, this is the first axe, so
He said he killed the priest with an axe.
he hasn't killed him yet.
Oh. Mhm.
That's coming.
Ah.
We're not there yet.
Mm.
Mackay attacked I swear I've never seen such a fast escalation in a serial killer. I mean, what he's done in just a couple years is like well, that's not true. I have Danny Rolling, Ted Bundy's spree in Florida. I mean, those were like berserker mode escalations, but he's not really in berserker mode though. He's just all right. I woke up this morning. I had some
Tea and crumpets.
and
With a fifth of whiskey and
with a fifth of whiskey and some milk, some chocolate milk. Ugh, that would. Ugh.
Real.
but then I killed an old lady. Yeah, he's not in berserker mode. This is just normal for him.
Yeah.
He doesn't actually go into berserker mode really until we get to Father Crean. That is his one-off berserker mode. But spoiler alert. But Mackay attacked a woman named Margaret Driver. He caught her as she was entering her flat, pushed her inside, then dragged her from room to room, and demanded she make him a cup of tea. Which she did. They actually sat in the kitchen for an hour talking and drinking tea. And he left. He didn't kill her.
Wow.
She
He
survived.
just wanted some tea.
He just wanted some tea. All I wanted was a Pepsi.
Oh.
If you get that reference, listeners, you rock. But She survived. Police were able to get fingerprints and a description, finally. Fingerprint analysis was very tedious back then, and it took a while. And when the results were finally matched to Mackay, he was already in custody for murder.
Mm.
Okay, March 10th, 1975. I guess you could say that he was now in berserker mode. Excuse me. Mackay. Okay, just gonna start. March 10th, 1975. You could actually say that Mackay was on the warpath in berserker mode. He was looking for somebody to rob, but he couldn't find anybody who he considered to be a potential target. Meaning, everybody
Someone weak.
Everybody who was looking like might have been able to actually kick his ass. But he sat down in a park, guzzled some whiskey, sulking. I don't know what to do, Daddy. I can't find anybody to mug. Daddy.
Mm.
Daddy. Daddy.
It might even be more creepy if you said, Father. Father.
Father.
Father.
Well, I'm not gonna say father because we've got Father Crean, you know.
True.
So. He sat down in a park and he guzzled some whiskey, sulking, and he saw Adele Price. He followed her, and he followed her right up to like the outdoor hallway of her flat and everything, and the flat next door. He pretended like he was fumbling for his keys and he dropped them, like he was going into the flat next door.
Mm-hmm.
But and while he did that, he faked a tremor in his leg. Adele asked if he was okay, and Mackay said that he was feeling faint, so she invited him into her flat and she offered him a glass of water, which he accepted. She told him to wait in the parlor while she went to the bathroom, and he snuck into the kitchen. And when Adele came out, Mackay heard her say, "Oh, how odd!" When he wasn't in the parlor where she had left him. She found him in the kitchen, where he told her that he didn't want any complications. She figured that he was just there to rob her, so but Mackay told her to go into the bedroom. She did, and Mackay followed. He began strangling Adele, and she slumped to the floor. He then turned on the TV and looked out the window. He stayed there for like 30 minutes reflecting. And he stayed, he was interrupted by Adele's granddaughter who was trying to get into the flat.
Wow. Well, did she get in or did she hear something and leave?
Neither. She went back downstairs to get help, and then Mackay simply walked out the front door, literally passed right by the granddaughter, who was walking back up the stairs. The granddaughter asked him if he had seen anybody up there because she couldn't get in. And he told her she better go get the porter, and then he just walked away like nothing was wrong. And then, obviously, very soon after that, Adele's body was found. But nobody, it doesn't really say if that particular guy was listed as a suspect for that, but whatever. Finally, a task force was put together to look into these murders and robberies. Detective John Bland had connected this murder to another murder that had happened the previous year and determined that they were done by the same person or people. This murder was Isabella Griffith, the Valentine's Day murder.
Mm-hmm.
The task force was soon investigating well over 50 different crimes ranging from purse snatching to robbery to murder. 11 days after killing Adele Price on March 21st, he returned to the house of Father Crean. Acting like he was on his best behavior, Mackay went looking for Father Crean. Yeah, he could be quite charming when he wanted to be, but if Patrick Mackay was being nice to you, that was a sign that you should run.
Only
or
being nice for a little while.
Yeah, or kill him, because that was likely what he had in mind for you. Mackay found Father Crean and said, "Father Crean, it's me, Patrick Mackay." Crean turned
Is that
around.
how he talked?
He did kind of have a like a higher pitched voice. I mean, I've heard, I listened to some audio from him, and yeah, it's just, I mean, I'm exaggerating it a little bit, but
A little bit.
just a little, well, somewhat. Actually, quite a lot. I'm just trying to keep in true with the daddy,
Daddy.
daddy.
Forgive me, Daddy, for I've been a very bad boy. Please don't call me that.
Crean turned around and shouted, "Oh God, I wasn't expecting to see you here." Mackay said that he had come to talk about the money that he owed him, but Crean wasn't happy to see him, and he was trying to get away, and that wounded Mackay's fragile ego. Like, how could he not be happy to see his old chum, Patty Mack?
Chummy.
Mackay grabbed Crean by the arm. Crean tried to fight back, causing them both to fall on the floor. Crean was no match for Mackay. He bludgeoned Crean's nose and then pulled out a knife and started stabbing him in the neck. Crean begged Mackay to stop, not to hurt him, just stop. His pleas for mercy actually excited Mackay even more. And he started beating Crean on the side of his head. His nose had been flattened by Mackay's initial assault. He then stabbed Crean in the skull so hard that it actually bent the blade of the knife.
Yeah, that's just that's definitely a moment of pure, just adrenaline fueled psycho
Rage.
Yeah.
Crean had briefly broken away from Mackay, and he ran into the bathroom trying to lock himself in. But Mackay was right behind him. He grabbed an axe that was lying underneath the stairs. Mackay shoved Crean into the bathtub and started beating him with the axe in the chest and on the head. He actually split Crean's head open horizontally. There's pictures where you can see the section of his skull with the brain exposed. But Crean was still alive at this point.
He was still alive.
Yeah. Mackay, I'm hoping he was in shock and couldn't feel what was going on. But Mackay ran water into the bathtub and drowned him, pushing him in and then pulling him up out of the water. The bathroom and Mackay were covered in blood, and like I said a second ago, I just hope that first blow to the head put him in so much of a state of shock that he couldn't feel or realize what was happening to him.
Yeah, hopefully so. I mean, even if he was alive, I'm sure he was very bordering on not really.
Yeah. Mackay then sat and gawked at his handiwork for about an hour before fleeing the scene. But not before one last act of humiliation. When Crean was found, a towel was wrapped on his head like a turban to keep his brains from coming out.
Why bother at that point?
Yeah. Mackay just dropped the axe and took off. This is one of the worst murder scenes that I think I've ever covered on this podcast. I mean, I know there's worse. Yes, I know there's worse, but It's just a single murder scene and everything. I think this is probably the worst one. I could be wrong. Who knows? But whatever.
It's gruesome either way. That's some
Yeah.
crazy.
Crean's body was found by one of the nuns who lived on the premises. The axe was found immediately, but Mackay hadn't left any other clues as to who did it. But one detective on the scene, Ken Tappenden, remembered the incident from when Mackay had ripped Crean off. Mackay was immediately tracked down and arrested. Now, when it was time for Mackay's hearing, he was told that his mother was going to be there to witness the hearing. He's like, my mummy's gonna be there, detective.
But what about Daddy? Daddy's gonna be there too. Daddy.
I've got a 4x6 right here. He actually asked Ken Tappenden to do up my shoes for me, please, would you? Tappenden looked at him and said, do your own fucking shoes.
As well he should have.
Yeah, and I love that because we don't really see that in a lot of these cases. I love that. Like, fuck off, dude. Piece of shit.
You just hacked open a priest. Fuck you.
Yeah. After his initial hearing, Task Force leader Detective Bland asked for Mackay to be put into their custody. And the judge agreed, and Mackay was faced with all of the evidence taken from the various crimes that all had his fingerprints on them. He then confessed to the murders of Adele Price and Isabella Griffith because of some of the items that were from their flats that he had. They then grilled him and got a 65-page confession from Mackay. He just opened the floodgates. But remember the friends I mentioned before that Mackay was staying with, the Crowdrys?
Oh, yeah.
Well, no surprise, he wore out his welcome there.
Really? I can't imagine how.
Oh, yeah, I mean, he's such a nice guy. He was always coming home from, with like women's jewelry and watches, which struck them as odd. But he then started raising hell there, saying that he was possessed by demons and that if Satan could come to earth from hell, it would be him.
I mean, I want to say he's not wrong.
Yeah. The father, Bert Crowdry, later said that he was most definitely the devil's disciple, which is where that nickname came from. And they booted him. And he retaliated by robbing the house and vandalizing it, and that got him 6 months in jail. I mean, his trial was open and shut. And he was sentenced to life, and he couldn't be released until it could be proven that he was no longer a threat to society. In many of his ramblings, he said that it was his ultimate goal to return to a normal life as a normal human being. So he was at one point he was England's longest serving prisoner, and by 1995 he had been denied release 10 times. But he started behaving himself. He was, after many years, moved to an open prison and was being considered for release. And he even got day release under Britain's version of the Pinky Promise Release Program, which he actually cooperated with. He didn't take off like every single other person who's been under the Pinky Promise Release Program on this podcast that we've ever covered. From Lester Eubanks to Carl Panzram, and I think there's to one of the Marriotts or Melvins or whatever. He actually complied. But put a knife in that because Sandra found some information that I had not found. So take it, Sandra.
So, well, what you said is true. He was kind of released on that pinky promise, and he was able to have little day outings, mingle with the public, etc. But this was back in 2023. They said that he was up for parole, and he was using his identity, that David Groves.
Oh, that
So,
one. Okay. Okay.
yes. So he now goes by David Groves, and he no longer uses his Mackay name. So so whenever he's out on these little prison releases, if you ever meet a Groves, a Mr. Groves, you may want to run because he's a real creep. But they said that it's possible that because he's had really good behavior, that he could be released on parole. They could decide to release him very soon, and he is a 70-year-old man, but he needs to convince the panel that his confession to other murders was the ramblings of a man who was mentally ill at the time. So he needs to kind of convince them that he didn't really commit all these murders, that he was lying and he was mentally ill, and he's all better now, and
Oh,
he's able for release.
oh, okay. So he's still on the Pinky Promise release program.
He's still on Pinky Promise for now, although this was in 2023. I'm not sure. This was March 2023. I'm not sure what has happened between then and now, if they actually decided to allow him on parole. But he was going by that alias of David Groves.
Oh, okay.
So
Now,
yeah.
I just sent you another picture, and that picture you said he has to prove that the confessions were the ramblings
Of a crazy,
of a madman. That
yes.
picture lends credence to that.
It definitely does. Although I know the officer that you mentioned, whose name literally just left my head because I'm terrible at names. What was it?
Tappenden. Yeah.
Tappenden.
Yeah.
He's basically come out and said this man should never be released. He's
I agree.
crazy. He's a murderer, and he believes the public would be in danger if he was ever released. So he's
look
definitely
at his MO though. I mean, he only went after little old ladies. So I'm sure a 75-year-old Patrick Mackay could still take down. Especially, is he working out in prison? I mean, is he taking care of himself? I mean, he's going to be able to take care of. He's going to be a 75-year-old Patrick Mackay would still be able to take down like a 85-year-old widow.
Oh, sure. I definitely agree. I mean, there was one picture of him sitting on a bench out in public next to some unsuspecting folks
Oh, God.
when he was out on this day jaunt. So, I mean, he's being allowed to be near people. So even this is my thing, is even though, yeah, it's the little Pinky Promise thing, he's still being allowed near the public.
That's
and
terrifying.
That is terrifying. That's one of those things where they feel like he's been agreeable enough and trustworthy enough to maybe not murder somebody on a day release.
Let me ask you this. Do you think that, because in none of his murders, none of them, this guy was not a sexual deviant. Do you think,
except with his sisters?
No, that was Peter Curtin.
That was Peter Curtin.
Yeah.
See, I'm getting them all mixed up because you're all just alike.
It's easy to do that, especially this one where the opening part of it mirrored freaking the Mark Martin case, but Do you think that if he was a rapist on top of everything else, that he would even be on the Pinky Promise Release program?
Probably not.
I agree.
I mean, but I think that what I find interesting is so many of these murders just seemed. I mean, I understand he was robbing these people, but they just seem so unprovoked, just
Yeah.
so and so violent.
Well, it's
And
completely premeditated, because the only reason that he's going, that he's like weaseling himself into their lives is so that he can kill them.
yeah, that is true. But I mean, he followed, like I said, he just followed some people to their flat, like that poor woman. Just I'm gonna act like I live here,
Yeah.
and oopsie, I have a cramp. Can I come in? And the thing is she, from all accounts, she was agreeable, and she wasn't,
Yeah,
she was just saying,
even when
take,
she found him in her kitchen after she told him to stay in the parlor, she was still like, all right, you
yeah,
all right. She was like, oh, that's odd. She
yeah,
wasn't alarmed or anything. She was just like, she had no clue. She never saw it coming.
yeah. That's one of those things where it just wasn't at all premeditated. It's just kind of, he saw her and decided that she was going to be the one. I mean, I guess you could say it was premeditated if he was sitting around contemplating robbing somebody, but she was definitely just a random
Yeah,
victim.
she was random, but Isabella Griffith was not.
True. He did go and make nice with her before killing her.
The that woman who ran that cafe, where
Hmm.
her son didn't get to watch the monkeys because of him.
Yep.
That was premeditated, because
Hmm.
he's like, I'd like to bring some patients here, which still, that whole scenario just seems odd to me. But that's
Well,
that was
and
what was in the
but
documentary.
then you think, like, if he wasn't lying about other murders, like the woman on the train, that would have been just a random thing. I'm just going to stab someone and throw him off a train because
Well, that woman was
I'm.
that woman was found. It happened, and he confessed to the exact
Well, he
details of
confessed,
it.
but yeah, he confessed, but
I think he
yeah,
did it.
I
I think he did it.
probably, but yeah, I mean, that was just a random thing too. I mean, she was not anyone he knew, as far as we know. That he just some poor woman. So he was very, yeah, he was manipulative, but also prone to just random bouts of murder. Just, you're my victim for today.
This guy, I mean, yeah, there's serial killers in um, England that have higher body counts than he does, and everything. And yeah, they're scary and everything. But this guy, I think, is probably he's one of the most scary that I've ever heard of. Just because
He's
of
just so unpredictable. The
yeah,
unpredictability of him.
yeah,
The random, when's he going to decide to do this, and who's he going to decide to hurt? Because the the one woman, he didn't kill her.
right. He's just
She made him some tea and he left.
yeah,
Uh, yeah, yeah. I mean, that's kind of interesting. Like, what made him decide to kill, the other woman when she gave him water and invited him in, and not kill the one he dragged around her flat and terrorized before she made him some tea?
yeah. But you know what? Hats off to that woman, because she was in survival mode, and
Oh yeah.
she nailed it. Because if she had flipped out on
Hmm.
him, he would have killed her.
Oh, definitely. Because if blockchain is
If
enough to
she
flip him,
if she had like started screaming and panicking and all that stuff, she wouldn't have been around to tell the tale.
yeah,
But
yeah, uh, she definitely can say she survived Crazy serial killer.
Yeah, and this one, yeah, I can't believe that I didn't remember this one from when True Crime Kent did the episode. But
Mm.
whatever. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I listen to lots and lots and lots of podcasts with my job because I have the time to do it. So, and listening to podcasts passes the time better than listening to the same 10 songs over and over and over and over and over again.
Yep.
And by the way,
Mm.
I'm mad at Taylor Swift.
What?
I'm mad at Taylor Swift
Why?
because yesterday and the day before she was playing a concert. She was double booked at a concert at the Hard Rock Stadium where the Miami Dolphins play,
Mm-hmm.
and the distribution center that I was delivering to is like literally right next to the stadium. And it took me a very long time yesterday and the day before to get in because of all the Swifties that were I've never even seen. I've been there on a Sunday when the Dolphins were playing, or a Saturday when the Hurricanes were playing, and the traffic was bad, but it wasn't that bad. So yeah,
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't get the Swifty thing. I That's a whole nother rant. But
no, I'm not a fan of her music and everything, but I think she's awesome. I mean, look at what she's done, and she's done it basically on her own. You know, so I'm not a Taylor Swift hater or whatever, but she did seriously inconvenience me for 2 days in a row. So yeah, I got a bone to pick with her about that.
oh.
Anyway, let's bring your hubby in. All right, after wrapping up part 2 of the British Binge, with that sicko Patrick Mackay, whatever. It's time for Beer of the Week. What's going on, Doug?
Hey, doing all right, man. How are you?
I'm good. Just I'm drinking a beer.
All right. Is it Bud Light?
Always drinking a beer.
It is Bud Light. Although I got a surprise for you, so be surprised.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So for the beer of the week, since you are doing your UK London binge, I picked up a can of Trooper, which is inspired by Iron Maiden.
Greatest band
All
of all
right.
time.
So Trooper is an ESB. Oh, look at you. Okay,
I have one too.
You have one as well. All right.
Iron Maiden. All right. Excellent.
Excellent.
What, you didn't know Iron Maiden made their own beer, Sandra?
Yeah,
I did not.
So this Trooper is an ESB, or extra special bitter, or extra strong bitter, whichever you prefer. And it's from the Robinson family brewers in England, obviously in the UK. So it was a collab. So Iron Maiden collabed with this brewery to create this beer. Um, yeah. So it says charged with flavor. So we will see. So
Mm-hmm.
ESBs are not typically in my wheelhouse, but I do enjoy an ESB from time to time, especially British beers. I remember when I was in the UK back in, I think it was like 2007 or so. One of the best beers I had was it was called London Pride, and it was actually out of a hand pump.
Oh,
Which
wow.
was which was really nice. So you figure in the U.S. most is just the tap handle, right? You pull the tap handle, get your beer. This was actually, they had to hand pump it to get the carbonation and put it into the pint, and it was one of the best beers I had.
Nice.
But this is a 79 out of 100 on BeerAdvocate.com, so still pretty high on the ratings. It takes its name from Iron Maiden song by the same name, obviously. which inspired them inspired by the famous Charge the Light Brigade, bringing in a real ale enthusiast. Vocalist Bruce Dickinson has developed a beer which has true depth of character, is what it says. So
Nice.
let's go ahead and pop it open here. Oh yeah, definitely an ESB. So let's go ahead and give her a pour.
Not as dark as I was expecting.
No. ESBs are not typically dark. Usually you can see through them and such, but good amber color on that. Very good color. Nice head. Yeah, looks really nice. Oh yeah. So what gives it a little bit of the amber color, the dark color, is the malt, and the malt is really coming through on this. It's not entirely hops, which again, ESBs, extra special strong bitters, normally have that. They have the bitterness from the hops, but they also have almost compensating on malt as well, about 50-50 ratio almost, and that's what gives it the amber color, opposed to like the yellowish like you would see from a Bud Light or those type of beers. So,
all right.
Yeah, definitely, malt is definitely coming through there. And there's the hops. Hops are, yeah. So
delayed reaction.
It is. So malt on the nose, and the hops are definitely on the taste, especially in the back of the tongue. Definitely getting the bitterness from the hops. But overall, it's not bad. It's not overly hoppy, like you would get with like a 60, 90-minute, 120-minute IPA or those type of beers or whatnot. But definitely has the hops.
So when you take a sip of it, you should go, oh.
Yep.
Doug can't carry a tune in a bucket, so
I
you made it.
I cannot. Definitely give him some citrus on it as well. There's some type of like citric. I don't know if it's grapefruit or if it's orange, but there's definitely some citric notes going on there as well. But there's also like a little very faint lemon note to this as well, like citric, like grapefruit and lemon for some reason. But no, overall, for an ESB, it's really good. I wouldn't probably have more than one of these because hops and those are not really in my wheelhouse. It's more darker beers and such. But this is a solid ESB, so they did a really good job, and it's endorsed by Iron Maiden. So there, win there, right?
Yeah.
So
I got a question. I mean this probably has nothing to do with Iron Maiden, but I saw them in concert back in 2019, and you would think that they would have their the Iron Maiden beer on hand there for sale, but they didn't. But
it's probably
that's probably
local
the venue.
Yeah, the venue. Yeah, I was going to say the venue controls what beer is sold. But this was easy to get. I mean, I went to Total Wine and they had this by the case. I got just a single of it for the show, but they had this in singles, 6-packs and 12-packs at Total Wine. So, I mean, if someone really likes their ESBs and Iron Maiden, you can get it in bulk. So,
but that wasn't my thing. It's like the beer that they had, all they had was like Heineken, Coors Light. They had just about every beer, every big name beer that I don't like. They did not have any Budweiser products.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No Budweiser product. That's at a music venue. I mean, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I was not impressed. I'm sitting there having to drink, and when you have to go stand in line, you're going to buy 2 or 3 of them,
right?
And so it's once I choked down the like the first or the second or third Coors Light or whatever, then I was okay. But at first, those first few were really rough on me.
Yep.
But
Yeah. So
Isn't that like your game, honey? Like beer roulette? Sometimes you play with your friends.
oh yeah. So we we do a thing sometimes called beer roulette where I have a cooler with it has a full open flap, or it has just a hole that you can just open the hole up and reach down, and I'll fill it with a bunch of like 10 to 15 random beers, right? So it's like you just stick your hand in the hole, you rummage around, whatever you pull out is what you drink.
Oh man.
Some of them are not very good because you
Some
put
of
like a
them are not.
PBR or a...
Oh yeah, I'll stack the deck and I'll put like some like 4 or 5 good beers in there, but then I'll put like a PBR, Coors,
A Schlitz.
a natty
yeah,
light.
Natty Light, yeah. So it's like you could get something really good, and they're all the same size, right? Either I do all 12-ounce bottles, the cans like this or something, tall boys. But I'll stack the deck, and it's like you could get something really good or you get something really bad, but whatever you pull out, you got to drink.
I have a theory about how the beer Schlitz got its name.
Mm.
The brewer that originated it, when he was finally finished with it, he took a sip. He went, Schlitz.
So I know Schlitz is known for malt liquor. Do they also make beer as well, or is it just the Schlitz malt liquor you're talking about?
I don't know. I mean, I haven't had very many Schlitzes in my lifetime.
Yep.
And if you're talking about bad liquor, we got to talk about Malort.
Unless you're from the Chicagoland area, most people probably don't know about that gem of a liquor.
Oh yes.
Put it this way: if you've never had it, it's an experience. They were actually able to sell it during Prohibition, believe it or not, because they marketed it as
it was that bad?
medicinal purposes. Because it tastes like it's bad.
Oh, so that loophole dates back to the 30s. The medicinal.
Yeah. Yeah, they had a contest a while back. This was years ago. They had a contest for rebranding of Malort, and they wanted a new tagline. And one of the best ones chosen was Malort. Tonight's the night you fight your dad. It's pretty bad.
It's bad. We get every once in a while when we go up north to see my family, we get a bottle and we bring it back for some friends. It's like, here you go. Here's the gift that you don't want to get.
Well, we're wrapping up. I just have, in case Iron Maiden is listening, if they ever decide to make their own liquor, I got a name for it: Eddie's Blood.
Oh yeah,
or the Blood of Eddie.
Nice.
Either a liquor or if they wanted to do a mead, a dark red mead or something like that. Because I know they have Viking's Blood, which is a mead that's out there. But Blood of Eddie as a mead, I think would probably sell in droves. So
probably, I'd at least buy one.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right next to my Trooper can.
Yeah. Buy two, one to keep on the shelf and one to actually drink.
Yeah.
But
anyway,
Bill, thanks again for having me on to talk about beer. For all the listeners and subscribers, remember, if you want me to review something, please send that to me, ckcbeer@gmail.com. Send that over to me, and I'm happy to try and find it, and I'll be sure to review it on the show.
Awesome. And if you want to send him something, he'll give you an address.
Yes, absolutely.
If you want to endorse us, if a beer wants to endorse the show, then you email me at ckcbpodcast@gmail.com. No.
If you would like to send a check, that is also acceptable.
Yeah.
I can't get over the color on this. The color on this is just amazing. Like it's very clear. There's no haze to it. This was a solid beer. So in recognition of the gentleman that you are talking about today. That piece of shit.
Now we'll give him some of that Chicago liquor that you were telling me about.
There you go. Yeah, absolutely.
Send him some Malort.
Yeah. All right. Thanks a lot for listening. We appreciate the hell out of it. Thanks again, Doug, for the beer of the week. And If you like the show, tell a friend. If you hate it, tell an enemy. Like, share, subscribe, rate, and review, and all that good stuff.
Comment,
Follow.
smash that subscribe button, follow.
Yeah, all the stuff. And until next week, later.
Cheers.
Bye.